Well, hello there. My name is Lisa Callahan, and I am the founder of the Women's Emotional Eating Community Support Group. And I am also the founder of an amazing program called Crush That Food Thing Self-Discovery System, where I help women to identify their invisible emotional relationship with food through taking a journey of self-discovery. So today we are talking about a great topic, and it is called simply, how do I heal my relationship with food? Or how do I get a better relationship with food? I have a lot of women that join my community and they tell me that this is their number one problem, that they want to have a better relationship with food. So when we think about our problems, we have to be able to open our mindset to know that every problem has a solution. If you have a problem that has no solution, then what you end up with is sort of like a fake problem. And so now we're here to break through this problem with wanting to have a better relationship with food so that we can really see if it is indeed a problem. When we're thinking about things from a self-discovery standpoint, we are allowed to ask ourselves questions. So when we have a problem that seems to be like predominant, like it's the most important thing ever, and that if you could just have a better relationship with food, that everything would be okay, we have to be able to question it. And the reason why we have to be able to question is because if we don't question it, and if there really is no solution to this problem, then we'll keep spinning our wheels for decades, saying to ourselves, well, I just want to have a better relationship with food. But then at the same time, if that's not a solvable problem, then we're just going to always think that that's the problem, but we're never going to find a solution for it. And that gets super frustrating. So the very first thing that I want to teach you is that when you have a problem that has no solution, it is called a pseudo problem, pseudo meaning fake. And when you have a pseudo problem, that specific type of problem is actually meant to keep your wheels spinning, and it's meant to eat your heart out. It's actually meant to make you feel bad about yourself because you keep directing your attention to something that is unsolvable as being the problem. And then you always end up feeling like stuck in the muck, spinning your wheels. Really, just think about a truck just spinning their wheels with no way out. So frustration sets in, and you can write this down. Frustration is a leakage of spiritual energy. So if you want to stay stuck in the muck, spinning your wheels, frustrated all the time, thinking that there's a problem that has a solution, but that problem doesn't have a solution, you will keep telling yourself that you want to have a better relationship with food. So this is where we begin. Your relationship with food is a lie, really. It's not a truth. Food, real food, actual food, is just meant for nourishment. Now, I know that you know this, okay? This is not news to you. But at the same time, when you feel that something that is keeping you alive, like literally for nourishment, that you have a bad relationship with it, that's a contradiction to your life. It's actually a betrayal of your integrity to tell yourself that you have a bad relationship with something that is meant to keep you alive. Like your goal is to stay alive, right? You want to be here. You wouldn't even be watching this video if you didn't have the desire to be alive. And yet at the same time, if you're telling yourself that you don't have a good relationship with the very same thing that actually keeps you alive, then you're contradicting your goals, really. Like you have a goal to stay alive, and then you're coming in telling yourself that you have a bad relationship with the very same thing that's keeping you alive. So it becomes kind of like an oxymoron. Like you're saying one thing and then you're believing another. And so the very first thing that I want to teach you, maybe the second thing, actually, the first thing is that telling yourself that you have a bad relationship with food, or that you would like to have a better relationship with food, telling yourself that is a pseudo problem. And it's the very same thing that's meant to keep you stuck. Now, I know that this is new news to you. I really do, because you've been telling yourself that you have a better relationship with food for decades. And I get it. I used to tell myself the same thing. And I always blamed the food for my problem. It was just like, I wish I had a better relationship with food. I wish I could get this food thing under control. Like, I wish that, food didn't call my name and all of these things. And what I didn't recognize was that as long as I was directing my attention towards telling myself that my relationship with food was the problem, but at the same time, that problem was a fake problem. As long as I was telling myself that, then it was causing me to look in the exact opposite direction of where I actually wanted to be looking, which was where the solution lives. Now, if this is confusing to you, that's okay. Self-discovery is an opportunity to get curious, and it's an opportunity to clear away all of the stuff that doesn't make sense and get to the stuff that does make sense. So now we have to be able to start from square one. So if we understand together now as a team, right, we're learning something new. If we understand that telling yourself that you want to have a better relationship with food is part of the problem, because it's distracting you from actually getting to the root cause of the problem, well, the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to stop telling yourself that. Literally, write it down on a piece of paper. Write down, I want to have a better relationship with food, and then cross it out. Give it an X. Because your relationship with food is not the problem. You want food, right? You have to have food to live. There is a problem with the definition of what food is. So food is something that gives us life. And sometimes the things that you're putting into your mouth that you feel are causing your behaviors to overeat or to binge eat or to use to calm you down or stressed or anything like that, those are not actual foods. Those are non-foods. So if you wrote down, I want to have a better relationship with non-food, I don't think you do. I don't think that's your goal. So think about it in your head as food being something that is alive, right? It's something that either, I don't know if you're a vegetarian or you're vegan, whatever, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because if you're eating plants or whatever, that's a live thing. There's energy in it. So whether you're eating an animal or whether you're eating a plant or whether you're eating something from the sea, it doesn't matter. It's still something that was either growing on a tree, growing in a crop, was swimming around once, was walking around once. Like, it had an energy about it. The non-foods, the stuff that's made in a factory or made in a plant, but not from a plant, that stuff is non-food. So if we can just take those two things and distinguish the difference between them, like if it comes out of a box or a bag, or it's made in a factory, or it's reproduced, like there's no potato chip tree, right? And you can say that it's made from potatoes. And at the same time, I know for a fact that, let's say even, I don't know, like McDonald's French fry, for example, if you look it up and you look how many ingredients are in a McDonald's French fry, 18 ingredients in a French fry. I don't know, but if I just took a potato and cut it up and threw it in my air fryer with a little bit of, sea salt and some pepper and some spices and put it in there and fried it up to a crisp, that would be a French fry with like one ingredient and a little bit of seasonings. Somehow or another, though, a McDonald's French fry has 18 ingredients. What the heck is in that thing? Not potatoes, I can tell you that much. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of potato, but not a lot. So we have to be able to think about this clearly and say to ourselves, well, what exactly do I define as a food? And so when you're telling yourself something, meaning you're telling yourself, I want to have a better relationship with food, make certain that the words that you're using are the same as what you say you want. You may love food. You may love vegetables and, I don't know, lettuce and fish and like food. You may love food and you may have an amazing relationship with food. And yet at the same time, it may be non-food that you are having a problem with. And so we have to be able to separate these two things. So think about it. And you can write this down, ask yourself this question. Am I having a bad relationship with food? Or am I having a bad relationship with non-food? Do I want my relationship with non-food to be better? If you do, great. And if you don't, then at least be able to understand what the difference between the two is, so that at least you can start with a clean slate. And so now we have to dive into the next part of this. If you didn't have to blame your relationship on food as being the problem, what else could you think? Because sometimes we can contaminate our mind with something that we think is the problem, but as we're seeing right now, your relationship with food probably isn't the problem. You probably have a fine relationship with food. You probably don't have a great relationship with non-food, and yet maybe you don't even want to work on getting that better, right? I don't know if you want to, but if you don't want to, then you at least can clear it out. So I think for step one, a great thing to do is to stop telling yourself that you want a better relationship with food. Because if you tell yourself that, then you're always going to believe that you're in lack of something that might not be true. And so make certain that whatever words come out of your mouth or whatever thoughts that come into your head, make certain that those thoughts are actually true and that those thoughts are meant to help you grow. Because telling yourself that you want to have a better relationship with food, and really the stuff that you're having the bad relationship with is non-food, it's a contradiction. It doesn't even make sense. And like I said before, it keeps you distracted, focusing on something that is actually taking you away from where you say you want to go. So now that we cleared that off, let's go into the next layer of this, because this is deep. This isn't on the surface. This is actually deeper than you might have ever imagined. So look at the wording. Now, I know that a lot of the women that come into my group say these words: I want to have a better relationship with food. Now, write that down on your piece of paper. And again, we just discovered that maybe it's really non-food that you're talking about. However, let's go into another layer. I want to have a better relationship with food. Look at the words. Circle the word better. If you tell yourself that you want to have a better relationship with something, that indicates that you already have a good relationship with it. You just want it to get better. So now let's write down 5 things, 5 ways, 5 feelings that you have about your relationship with food. Remember the food part, food versus non-food. Tell yourself, write it down. How do I already have a good relationship with food? Maybe you have a homemade recipe for something that has been in your family forever, and you love making that recipe. And that recipe, when you serve that to your family or friends or whatever, maybe that makes you feel amazing. That is a good relationship with food. So write that down. Maybe there are things that you do. Maybe you make an amazing smoothie. Maybe you take kale and apples and lemons and I don't know, ginger, and maybe you make this beautiful thing that you just love. You have a good relationship with food, right? So you want to do more of those things. So let's see how you already have a good relationship with food, and then start to ask yourself, well, how can I just do more of that? We have a concept in Crush That Food Thing that's called adding in so that you can crowd out. So if you're telling yourself, I want to have a better relationship with food, well, then again, you already have parts of your relationship with food that are good. You're admitting that because you're asking for something to be better, which means that you already have to have something good. So write down what you feel is good about your relationship with food and then do more of that. If you do more of the things that you already feel connected with and you already feel good about, then you can crowd out the stuff that you don't want to do, right? So think about it like that. There's a concept that we have in Crush That Food Thing that's called adding in so that you can crowd out. So write down 5 things that are already good about your relationship with food and do more of those things, and you will see that you will do less and less of the things that you want to crowd out. So that is another layer of the puzzle. The third thing is to ask yourself, if I didn't have to blame my relationship with food on being the problem that I'm having, what could I think instead? So for me, with self-discovery and how I figured out that it wasn't my relationship with food that was bad or that needed to be fixed, it was actually my relationship with myself. What I was doing, and tell me if you're doing this too, we can share in the chat. If I was getting to certain non-foods and then telling myself that I wish I had a better relationship with food, but at the same time, when I was eating all those non-foods, binge eating on them, I would get to a result where I would feel bad about myself. I would feel guilty. I would feel ashamed. I would feel embarrassed. I would feel disconnected. I would feel like I would blame it, right? And I would always blame the food. I'd be like, those darn cookies are calling my name, or then I would also tell myself, I can't trust myself around food. So I couldn't keep anything in the house ever. Like if my kids wanted ice cream, 100,000% no way. And I had to really keep myself in like a prison, what I called like a food prison. It really wasn't though. It was a non-food prison. I just didn't know that at the time. And that's why I'm here giving you all this information, because I want to share with you the things that I didn't know. I spent decades and decades and decades harming myself, really just hurting myself, thinking that food was the problem. The food wasn't the problem. I was the problem. And I had to be able to sort through all of those thoughts that were meant to keep me stuck, those thoughts that were hurting me, so that I could understand with clarity what the root cause of the problem was. The root cause of the problem for me was that I already felt bad about myself. I had parts of me that felt guilty and ashamed and embarrassed and uncomfortable, and like where I wasn't worthy, or I didn't think that I deserved good things. And so with that thought in mind, food was just an easy way for me to feel bad or to feel guilty about myself, because when I ate an entire box of cookies, it always like fueled the feelings that I already had about myself. So it wasn't really that I wanted to heal my relationship with food or get my relationship with food better. It was that I actually was in desperate need of getting the relationship with myself to be better. Once the relationship with myself was healed, food is an afterthought now. I don't think about it. I eat whatever I want. I am not on a diet. I don't worry about anything. I was on an airplane last night. They offered me a little snack thing. It's not my normal diet. I had it, no problem. It doesn't trigger me to feel bad about myself. I don't make that decision anymore and then be like, oh gosh, I really shouldn't eat that. And I never think, oh, well, I already ate that, so might as well keep it going and then binge for 5 days. Like none of those thoughts come to my head anymore, but I know how it feels to have those thoughts. And so the very last thing that I want to, bring to your attention is that this relationship is not about the food. This relationship is with yourself. And so if you are willing to, because nothing is easy for the unwilling. So if you're not willing to, if you want to keep focusing your attention to tell yourself that your relationship with food is the problem, you can do that. I just want to ask you, how has that worked for you in the past? And if it hasn't, then maybe, just maybe, take that thought, put a pin in it, just get it out of your head for a little while. Say to yourself, if my relationship with food is not the problem, what could the problem be? And then see what comes up. Maybe it is that there is a deep, deep feeling of unworthiness inside of you. Maybe there is a deep feeling of, lack of trust with yourself, or maybe with others. Maybe there's a wound there. Your intuition will be your guide. You will know what that feeling is. Ask yourself, where do I feel this feeling? Is it in my head? Is it in my chest? Is it in my stomach? Like, where is it? And you'll be able to recognize that there is something underneath here. And if you keep using food, your relationship with food, as something to distract you from getting to the root cause of the problem, you'll just continue to do that. And you'll believe what you think, because we only have this one mind inside of our heads, right? So we tend to believe everything we think. However, I give you permission right now. I give you permission to not believe everything you think. Sometimes your thoughts are the very same thoughts that are meant to keep you stuck. And if your thoughts are meant to keep you stuck, then you are the only one that can choose, listen to the words, choose to change your thoughts, or else you'll just keep getting the same results, right? Every single time we think a thought, it takes us to an end result. If the end result that you're getting is different from what you say you want, then you have to know that there is a mismatch going on in there. And that mismatch is allowing you to betray yourself so that you stay stuck in the muck, and that you always keep using this food thing to distract yourself from getting to the root cause of the problem. And this is what we clear up for you in self-discovery. Now, everything that I might have just said right now, you might have just been like, what? What is she talking about? Because with the thought that there's all this stuff going on, it can get confusing. And that's why we do coaching. So coaching allows us to kind of like get rid of all the stuff and just try and get to one little teeny piece of the problem. And when we can solve one teeny piece of the problem, that allows us to click two pieces of the puzzle together. I know that right now coming into this, it sort of feels like you've got like a 500-piece puzzle, and you've got like 100 pieces from 5 different puzzles. And when you're trying to put them all together, none of it makes sense. What self-discovery allows you to do is it allows you to work one little puzzle at a time. And then when you put that one puzzle together, just one puzzle, then you can start to work on the next puzzle. And trust me when I say, all of those puzzles do fit together, just not when you've got 5 different 100-piece puzzles all in the same pile. It's too confusing. It's meant to make you feel overwhelmed. It's meant to make you feel frustrated, and it's meant to keep you stuck forever. So self-discovery is 100% the solution to being able to get out of the muck. It just is. And I'm proof of that. I did this myself through a journey of many, many years of self-discovery. And I put the 2 and 2 pieces together, and I started to realize the more that I learned about myself, the more I freed myself in the past, the more I forgave my past, the more that I, understood who I am as a human being, the more I did that. And then I put the connection with food, and I was like, wow, I feel really good about myself. I feel connected. I feel like I'm, learning new things about myself. I feel like I'm getting free. And then food would come in, non-food, and all of a sudden I would be like stuck in the muck again. And I started to recognize that I was allowing myself to feel badly about myself, and I was using food to get there. It wasn't the food's fault. It was the feelings inside that I already had about myself. And I was just using food to fuel those feelings. So once I was able to connect the dots, and I recognized that I was using the food to fuel a negative feeling that I already had about myself, then I was onto something, and I could solve the problem quickly and efficiently, and immediately, automatically, it was like my food thing disappeared. And then I realized, I was like, wow, I don't have those feelings anymore. And it was amazing. And that's what we do in Crush That Food Thing Self-Discovery System. So I hope that we cleared up a lot of things for you today. I hope we gave you a little bit of, things to start working on for yourself. And if you would like some more information about how we can help you crush your food thing as well, there'll be a link around this video, and you can click on that and we can connect. All right. Thank you. Onward and upward to a positive day. Bye for now.